Hello and welcome to the DKG Zero to Hero tutorial on knowledge assets. Now, today we're going to be breaking down the innovation that is the knowledge asset out of the OriginTrail ecosystem. We will be looking at the asset graph, which consists of RDF triples or resource description framework triples. We will be diving more into that later on. We will be looking at the universal asset locator. We'll also be taking a look at the NFT record ownership, the ownership records related to your knowledge asset. And we'll also be looking at the blockchain information that is related to your knowledge asset. And we will also take a look at the keywords. Just a quick example to show you how this fits into the anatomy of the knowledge asset. Now, of course, we will be looking at a Tesla Model X vehicle as an example, which is actually taken directly from the OriginTrail documentation on knowledge assets. So let's begin by, first of all, explaining what is a knowledge asset. Now, the OriginTrail documentation says a knowledge asset is an ownable container for your valuable information that can describe any physical thing, documents, abstract concepts, numbers, and strings. It lives in a decentralized knowledge graph, which makes it easily discoverable, while your information, integrity, and knowledge asset ownership are safeguarded by the underlying blockchain. So here we have an example of a knowledge asset. Now we see that this asset contains an asset graph. Now, what exactly is RDF? RDF is a standard model for representing data on the web, created by the World Wide Web Consortium. It is a way of describing resources such as web pages using a triple format of subject, predicate, object, known as triples. These triples are used to create a graph-like structure of data, which can be easily processed by computers and linked with other RDF data to create a web of interconnected information. In our case, we'll be creating a web of interconnected knowledge assets on top of the decentralized knowledge graph. So think of the asset graph as the what. Now, if we go to our OriginTrail documentation example, what we see here is we have a Tesla Model X. This is an example of our asset graph. Now, as you can see, we have a context which lets us know and the machine know what exactly each field here means. So we know that we have an ID which uniquely identifies the particular Tesla that we're talking about here today. We know that this is a car, and we know that the name of this car is a Tesla Model X. We know that this particular knowledge asset has a brand, and the brand is Tesla. This knowledge asset, or Tesla, has a model, and the model is Model X. The manufacturer is Tesla. And we also see that the manufacturer, we get a little bit more information about the manufacturer because we're able to specify that, well, this is an organization. Okay, now we can see the fuel type for our particular vehicle, the number of doors, and more specifications. So what we can see is that this knowledge asset, based on the documentation, contains valuable information that describes our Tesla. So that's our asset graph. Now let's talk briefly about the UAL. Now, the UAL, or the Universal Asset Locator, are ownable identifiers of the DKG, similar to URLs in the traditional web. So for example, now of course, for me to even begin showing you this video, I had to come to this website and type in this URL. Well, this URL lets my system know where exactly it can go to grab the files to then display this beautiful web page to me. This is the where. Now, the UAL operates the exact same way, but for the decentralized knowledge graph. So this is how you know exactly where to look in the decentralized knowledge graph. Now let's head over to our example here. And what we see is after we have created our asset, we also return the results of this creation process. And well, right here we see the UAL for our particular knowledge asset, our Tesla knowledge asset. So now we know that we can call upon this UAL, and we should always be able to get the information that we put into our public knowledge asset. Now, asset graphs actually contain something called assertions. Now, you can think of each state of your graph, of your asset, as an assertion. So, for example, if I were to upload my Tesla asset in this form right now, this will be the most recent assertion. This will be the current state of the asset. Let's say I were to update the asset and perhaps change the brand. Well, this will issue a new assertion to the exact same UAL. So you can still get the latest and greatest information on a particular knowledge asset, but you're able to also identify that, hey, something has changed within this particular asset and here is its assertion ID for this change. So this offers the ability to update and keep track of the latest state of your asset. It is also important to state that assets can also be private and public. So this offers quite a lot of functionality to anyone who understands how to leverage the power correctly. As we said right here, we can actually go ahead and read the latest data from our knowledge asset, and we're going to follow along the example from our documentation. And now we are pulling up the latest assertion as we just discussed. Now this assertion has all the information that we entered on our Tesla up above. So this is an example of reading the graph directly, reading the latest assertion on a particular UAL to obtain whatever information you may be trying to obtain. And of course, you can see right here, we've got our assertion ID, which uniquely identifies, hey, this is all of the data linked to this particular assertion ID, which is linked to this UAL. Okay, so I think you've pretty much got the general aspect around the functionalities of a knowledge asset. So now that you understand how asset graphs and UAL kind of play together, we're going to talk a bit more about the ownership record NFT and your immutability proofs. Now, of course, it says right here in the documentation, the NFT portion is used as an implementation component of knowledge assets on the DKG. The token is used to represent ownership of the knowledge asset and enables the owner of the knowledge asset to perform all standard NFT functionalities with it, such as transfer the ownership of their knowledge asset, list them on NFT marketplaces, and use their knowledge assets as rich NFTs in Web3 applications. So because we have added the ability for the asset to be owned, thanks to the blockchain component of it, well, this now means that you not only have this data living in the graph, but you can also now transmit this data or share and move these knowledge assets around between different holders. So this creates a sort of, tradability or the ability for trade on knowledge itself. And of course, since it's anchored in blockchain, you can always recall to see who is the owner of what particular asset. And we can see it, and we can see an example of this right here. Now we have a get owner field where we're going to retrieve the owner of a particular UAL right here, and we're going to log the results so that we can view it, and it returns the particular asset we're talking about. So it says, hey, we're talking about this asset right here, UAL, and the owner is this particular wallet on the blockchain. And of course, if this person has the ownership over the asset, well, they can now transfer that asset, which is exactly what this example shows right here. So this is, once again, the power of utilizing knowledge assets, or combining blockchain and knowledge graph technology to create a sort of system where you can bag and tag knowledge at the data level and also open it up to the ability for trade. So this unlocks the potential of data and facilitates network effects. Now, when you are putting your assets into the knowledge graph, you are able to specify keywords that can be used to search the decentralized knowledge graph to obtain your assets. Of course, more instructions and videos will be coming out about keywords and search as more innovation is released upon the network. But for now, this is as far as I'm willing to go as it relates to discussing knowledge assets.